Hello,
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
welcome again to TFT Tarot for Today.
Divine Dabblings with
Oberon,
and Banshee.
and we are back again on our Sunday live stream from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. And this is one of the last days of September. Getting really excited as October and Halloween is rolling around.
And why is that?
And why is that? Indeed, because we've got Halloween haiku to share with everybody.
That's right, coming soon, starting October 1st, we're going to have haiku for every single day of October. Banshee, can you tell us a little bit about haiku for those who may not understand that?
Yes, we did come up with a haiku a day, just saying, and a little extra as we'll go into details here. What is haiku? Haiku is a Japanese form of poetry that is, I don't know, people who are on Twitter might appreciate it because it's a brevity of words that evokes really great images. They're particularly in traditional haiku, nature themed and very profound. But you know, in modern times, the haiku has been Americanized to be kind of silly at times. There were all kind of silly haiku books that were out. There were haikus for cats and dogs, things like that.
And okay, so it's spare, but it sort of goes to an essence that can be
Yes,
quickly realized. Is
yes.
there anything structural about it?
Why, yes, I'm glad you mentioned that, Mr. O, because it is, there is a formula, like much poetry has structure. Haiku is based on syllable counts to some extent, at least the traditional haiku that I'm used to. There are a variety of forms, but the one that I'm most familiar with and I use the most, like for example, when I've done my tarot haiku, which will also be coming back in the month of October, it's the first line is usually 5 syllables, the second line is 7 syllables, and the third line is 5 syllables. 3 lines, but also I believe there's another method where you count total syllables, and I will get more information on this as the month goes on. We'll talk about it a little bit more, but it's total syllables, maybe something like 16 or 18 syllables, and it doesn't matter how you break them up amongst the lines. But I'm using a more traditional 575, and we managed to come up with haiku for the entire month. And could you talk? Do you want to mention a little bit about how this got started, or should I?
Well, I think I know it maybe possibly more from my own perspective, but that was that several years ago, one of my coworkers wanted to post Halloween haiku and had enlisted me amongst other staff members to do that. So some of the haiku that I'm contributing here are the 4 or 5 that I may have written at that time. And then I think I mentioned this to you and you immediately took to it, of course.
Right. And I decided to create my own. And then before long, we started having this little haiku battle between us who could come up with the funniest haiku.
I think that battle only ended last night.
Yeah, actually, because what happened was we realized that we didn't quite have enough haiku made for a whole month's worth of haiku. So we went to work and came up with some more in the last week or so. And some of them, I swear, brought tears to my eyes. They were so funny. Some of yours were very good, and some of mine as well. Well, we'll just have to see what you think.
Of
If
course, there was that one that definitely could not make the grade, and it was my attempt at recreating perhaps my final childhood Halloween experience. See, it just sort of brings a trigger to me even thinking about it.
now,
Where
now,
I was about 6 years older than my sister, and I was tasked with taking my sister Halloweening, and I was around 12, so I was already at that time feeling like I didn't want to be doing that anymore. But my mother insisted, and so my sister was some sort of green Martian, and I was what they used to call back then a gypsy fortune teller, complete with
how appropriate.
babushka and
Sort of.
peasanty skirt. So it was probably my first attempt at being, or not even my attempt, but my first time being in drag of sorts. And on Halloween, so, go figure.
Well, and so basically, we love Halloween. We love the season, and we'll be sharing a lot of different tips on, this time of year, the dark time of year. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about dream interpretation because that's come up, in our readings and in our talks and discussions in our chat room. And, in future broadcasts, we'll be touching on things like past lives and communing with your ancestors, trying to access the spirit realms a little bit, and things like that, I think, for the season.
So yes, there's extra content for the Halloween season, and we hope you will watch that. So once again, we're talking about our Halloween haiku, and that's going to be starting in just a couple days on the 1st.
Yes.
And you can tune in every day to our Facebook page, which we list here as a
our
way,
Twitter page.
or our Twitter page. They'll be posted on both, and so you'll be able to see that. And we hope you will. There's our stream schedule again. And you had something, Banshee?
Yes, I was going to talk a little bit about how we're doing this. So one day, and I think I'll start with you, Mr. O. The first day will be a haiku from Oberon. And then I will do a haiku the next day, and we'll rotate like that. But on the seventh day, of each week of the month,
We don't rest on the seventh day.
we don't rest. We will not only have whoever's haiku turn it is, we will have a collaborative haiku that we created because we created some together because we're a team.
That's right.
And
It takes two tarot readers to come up
haiku.
with some hokey Halloween haiku. But we do hope you'll check it out because we think it's pretty funny and
some are
entertaining.
funny, some are corny, some are just kind of cute. And we'll just roll in with it to give you a little levity during the Halloween season because, at the dark time of year, people, when they're doing their inward reflecting and journeying, it can bring up some deep stuff, some deep doo-doo, to say the least.
To say the least,
And
that's
so,
right.
we want to lighten it up just a little bit. Halloween is also a fun time. Kids going trick-or-treating, we all love that. So I think that that will just help lighten the mood a little bit this Halloween season.
I think I just heard one of the cats making their little meowish cry that they make sometimes. So there it
Yeah,
is.
I hear
Yes,
it.
I'm wondering if they're going to jump up here and join us and
It
hopefully
is
not
highly,
knock
highly
over
possible.
not knock over lights or cameras like they did on a previous live stream.
Well, Mr. O, we brought a guest.
We did.
We brought our Halloween frogs in a cauldron, our little toads here.
Is he set to go?
I think he's set to go, so go ahead.
I wonder what'll happen when the witch comes back. Something bad could happen when the witch comes back. It might be something scary or extraordinary. We'll be very wary when the witch comes back. But wait, at the door. The witch is back. A creaking of the floor. Oh yes, the witch is back. I got a funny notion. Well, why make a potion? The witch is back.
Okay.
Shake it, Froggy. Shake it.
They were kind of trembling there at some points because they're afraid of the scary witches.
I trembled too.
Okay, we're not trying to project stereotypes here, of course.
Or are we?
But this is a Hallmark thing that we got years ago, and I thought it was really cute. And so that's one of our decors for the holiday season. I just thought I'd bring it out. I have something else cute I'll bringing out on our first live stream. A little divination device of sorts that I got from Meyer, of all places.
Oh,
But hey, you know what I brought out today? I brought out the fall leaves again. Perhaps you'd like to draw a fall leaf for our audience, and let's see what rune we get for the fall.
so
I created
for
these.
the audience.
Yeah, I created these leaves, painted runes on them, and so we will. And I created some interpretations. Let's see what we get.
And here's what I got.
And may I see it? Oh, I guess I could look on my camera.
Well,
couldn't I?
actually, it's a delay there.
Oh, okay. It is the. This is actually the appropriate direction.
It looks like a fancy open bracket. Or clothes bracket.
doesn't it?
It must be a runic clothes bracket.
And it is called Perth, which is the rune of initiation. And so if you were using this magically and magical workings, it could be good for things related to time or timing, changes, hidden things, finding lost objects. We all need that sometimes. Mental health and healing, things like that. The interpretation of the rune, and I'm going to take it as upright. It was sideways the way you did it, but I'm going to take it as upright. And its mysteries revealed. Changes happening below the surface. Surprises, unexpected gains, questing, spiritual renewal, lost objects found, and intuition.
So if this is applied to the week ahead, then I'm thinking this pertains possibly more to our work life, but it could pertain to other aspects of our life, that there are just some situations you may become aware of and realize that there were maybe some illusions or deceptions going on there, and you're going to kind of be able to get through that or understand that it happened.
Yeah, sure.
Very
And also,
nice.
changes are afoot. You know, they may be changes that are happening within yourself because it said below the surface. So, you know, maybe this season and this time is going to be a time for you to really do some inner reflections and decide what major changes you do need to initiate in your life. You know, it all starts from within to begin with. You aren't going to make any changes unless you are totally on board. All right, so very
That's gonna be
good.
true.
We'll put that back for now. And I guess today today is the day we do your group reading.
That's correct. I do on Sundays a 3-card reading that basically is for the week ahead for our audience, and it basically covers the ideas of body, mind, and spirit, what you can expect to understand is going on in those areas over the next week or so. So I'm going to go ahead and shuffle the cards now for that.
And I will shuffle too.
Yes, and you will shuffle too.
I will shuffle too.
And I am using the Paul Hewson Dame Fortuna Fortune deck, which I love, is very much a homage to maybe the Marseilles deck or something like that, a more several centuries ago kind of routine with that.
I just realized I forgot my rune deck, or my Lenormand deck.
Okay,
I
so
have
I
just
will
grabbed.
cover for you by holding the card in front.
Why, thank you. I apologize. Seems like every time I think I have everything I need, I don't. All right.
And intently thinking of the body, mind, spirit. Naturally, of course, I drop a card, the Knight of Coins. And the Knight of Coins is the coming or going of certain matters. And I'm thinking that in general, there may be also, in addition to anything else I may be saying in the next few moments, coming or going of matters involving trustworthiness and dependency. That if you find there are certain allies or people you're expecting to be dependable, this will come into play. Whether for good or bad, you may find that maybe somebody is leaving that circle or is joining that circle. So
I
go
take
ahead.
it I missed out. You dropped the card.
Yes, it was the Knight of Coins.
Okay. I was running for my Lenormand. I will be using the Ciro Marchetti decks again today. His Gilded Reverie Lenormand, not the expanded version, the original. And I will also be using his Tarot Grand Luxe. Next week I might shift it a little bit and bring out one of the other decks I have. One of the many.
Go ahead and cut them, Banshee, when
I
you're ready.
indeed. Oh, one is turned over. Does that mean something?
Well, it might mean something, I don't know. But it is the Empress card. And so if I was going to say that maybe this next realm of experience over the week or so is about things that are coming to fruition, things that you have waited for their season, their time of birth to occur.
Let
I
me
guess
add
you want to
that
throw
back
that back
in.
in
Yes,
there
I'm going
now.
to shuffle it a few more times because of that. I don't see any other ones
My
overturned in here.
Goodness, I'm not used to those kind of things happening.
Well, you know, doo-doo happens sometimes.
But why always me?
All right, I'm ready. Cut them for you?
Yes, please.
All right, then.
So, once again, this reading for the next week covers the body, mind, and spirit of our collective audience. So, my first card is the Two of Swords. It's in an upright, favorable position. The Two of Swords is in your body. It's the body part of your emphasis. So I'm just going to say that there's going to be an emphasis on trying to regulate yourself a little bit. It may be that you might be inclined to try to start a diet or start a health regime of some sort. Maybe you've been thinking, oh, I should try to get back into my gym schedule or my dieting schedule. This card sort of indicates that maybe you will think favorably about that. You will have those concerns and you want to bring balance, basically. It is also possible, too, in my opinion, that maybe you're also looking for something to kind of present itself so that you can ponder that or focus on that.
I do think the Two of Swords is kind of a card of sort of standing still, but also, like he said, like Oberon said, it's a card of maybe taking stock and some reflection on, you know, what direction you want to take. In other words, this is a time of reassessing, you know, your progress or lack thereof to see what you need to do to move in a constructive direction. And yeah, since this is in the realm of physicality, I do think it has to do with your physical health or well-being in some way, shape, or form.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to the mind part of body, mind, and spirit. And we have pulled the Three of Batons.
Oh, wow.
The Three of Wands. And the Three of Wands says that from that mental perspective, if you are thinking at all about things, you are thinking that you are invested in this enterprise that's called your life, and you are thinking about maybe those health concerns of the body, but you're thinking you are waiting for the good news. You feel confident that things are pretty much as they should be. You're at peace in your mind and feel that it's a matter of time for things to come due to you.
This is the mental?
This is the mind.
Yes. You have a very successful outlook right now, you know, very positive, as if, you know, you realize you have put a lot of yourself out there in some area of, you know, interest to you, and you have an attitude of success, and that attitude that good things are going to come and happen to you is inspiring you, you know, to think bigger, I guess is what I want to say.
Okay, so the final card of the reading is the spirit equation. How are we in looking at the next week on our spiritual level? And we have the reversed Seven of Coins. And although many of the images of Huson's Dame Fortune deck do follow more traditional Rider-Waite conventions, this one's a little bit different, but still I get that feeling of what the reversed Seven of Coins or Seven of Pentacles would indicate. From our spiritual point of view, what this may be saying is that we feel it is time to also think over this next week about how can we return things to the overall environment of societal peace or spirituality. How can we make a contribution? How can we return something that maybe we have taken advantage of or maybe at least have benefited from? And how can we pay back a little bit? How can we pay it forward? So it may be that kind of sense there too, especially because the Seven of Coins does talk about physical reward or physical presence in our lives, physical belongings. But this card to me is saying you're trying to figure out what you can do to balance some scales again. So once again, we're reminded of the first card, the Two of Swords, which is a little bit about balance. And that maybe you're trying to figure out how you can pay it forward.
Well,
You feel differently.
maybe. I would just say that being this is the spiritual level, you're thinking in terms of how can I really, how can I really, even though you've had okay on the mental level, you really have a feeling of success on a mental level. On a spiritual level, you're working on what's driving you towards your goals, what is driving you towards that success, and what do you need to really, what inspires you and makes it move forward. I think that's what that card is indicating to me on a spiritual level.
Very good. So I don't think I need to pull an additional card at all. I know I do that sometimes. But perhaps you want to texture us with a little Lenormand?
I will do a pairing for this just as a maybe focal point for the week ahead for him. Let's see what we have.
And just a brief reminder, we're on Facebook with a tarot for tomorrow, a one-card forecast for the following day that we put up in the evenings, usually after 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but whenever. They're good for the next day, so you can check that out on our Facebook page, TFT Tarot for Today. That's also occasionally reflected over on Twitter. And now Banshee has pulled those cards, the Lenormand, and she has pulled the Flail. I'm getting very used to this card, number 10, the Flail. And she has also pulled, it looks like, the Mountain.
And so what I would add to this is it's very interesting getting these two cards together. It seems as though one of the focuses for this week is how to make obstacles and obstructions and challenges to your goals and objectives disappear. How to cut them away, how to move forward and eliminate obstacles and setbacks, in your life.
That's pretty good. I don't relate as a fortune teller to the Lenormand, and I have to admit that I'm just going to agree with you on principle because I'm not getting a specific idea here. I'm trying to relate it a little bit to the cards, and what you're saying just makes sense for me, so I'm not really sure how I can enhance that at all.
Maybe
I think
nothing else needs to be said.
I think that overall, some of these cards, even though they are specific departments of the spiritual or the mental or the physical, that they do sort of revolve around some sense of balancing or meditating about the balancing, that kind of thing. And so I think this kind of hones that in a little bit. So I think that was a pretty cool reading.
Yeah, all the way around.
Very
Good
cool.
job. Good job.
Very good.
Awesome.
Don't forget, Halloween haiku starts in just 2 days. We're so
Oh my gosh,
geeked
we are
over that. We're
hyping
gonna
this much to our, I don't know.
pump that numerous times.
Well, we'll just see how it goes with the haiku. Also, my tarot haiku is making a reappearance. I think I'm going to cross the streams a little bit this time because now I went through the entire major arcana of haiku that I created, and I'm going to be working on starting with the minor arcana. And I think what I'm going to do is present the minor arcana not by suits but by number. So I'm going to start with the aces, and one day I'll do the ace of cups or wands, then I'll do the ace of cups, the ace of swords, the ace of pentacles, and then I'll go on to the twos, threes, fours. So you'll get a tarot haiku a day. I may take a little break once I finish the suit of cups, I may take a little break and just do one of these a month. So one of the suits a month.
Very good.
Yeah, so I have fun with haiku, and it's really interesting because now I've gravitated to Twitter, and it should be no surprise since I'm used to talking briefly in haiku.
And it seems like Twitter is possibly a wonderful platform for haiku like this. Expresses easily in a spare way something that maybe is poignant, or perhaps it's comical, or who knows.
Well, I would like to say, just without getting political, really, that, doing haiku is a nice constructive way to use Twitter and to communicate with people, something positive, constructive. Well, some of them might have a little downer connotation, not the Halloween ones. Halloween ones might have a spooky connotation, nothing else.
And I think we kind of covered that a little bit. We did a little bit of things that were maybe more, I won't call them spooky or scary, but maybe more meditative about that dark aspect. But most of our haikus were a little bit silly, more about the
Corny.
cultural context
Cultural
of,
context of
of
Halloween.
Halloween.
Yeah.
Because after all, we're Americans and we grew up with Halloween being a pretty big holiday in our own childhood.
Right.
And we've seen that reflected in our son's Halloween childhood as well as our granddaughter. Halloween is a real fun time. It shouldn't be a time for politics. It shouldn't be a time for people to use for anti-religious reasons
Right.
or anything. Um, the only time we ever really got political with Halloween was maybe in the late 70s, a year or two after the Watergate political situation in America. Somebody we know dressed up with a Richard Nixon mask and some other costume accessory that was kind of cute, but that was about as political as we took it for Halloween.
That was me.
Oh, well, I didn't know because you had that mask on and
Yes, you did.
and that costume accessory that maybe you should explain.
Well, I was the former president, Richard Nixon, in a straitjacket, actually, and I just kept muttering over and over again.
I am not a
I am
crook.
not a crook.
I am not a
I am
crook."
not a crook. I couldn't even get my hands out to do his famous, peace. Wait, there we go. Peace symbols.
Technically, it was the 70s, and you would have had to have been there to get it, maybe,
Yeah,
or to at least
We're
be
dating ourselves
a
once
historical
more.
student, somebody who studies those kind of histories. So, but that's really about as political as we ever got for Halloween.
Well, and by the way, I am not sure if anybody is here besides us right now, but if you need our cat has come. If you need a reading, we are here. We will stop what we're doing and give you a nice, brief, free reading if you're interested.
Yes.
Welcome, Sunny.
Welcome, Sonny.
You could turn around and face the camera sometimes, and
He
stop
probably
eating
says,
my
"No, he
Lenormand
can't."
cards. That would be nice too if you did not.
He's
do
going to
that.
watch you on the auxiliary monitor.
I know. I think that's what he does. Is he watches me on the monitor. Who says cats aren't smart? Shame on them. Absolutely. So I've been communicating with a lot of interesting people on Twitter and even on Facebook a little bit. I leave some of that to Oberon, but I do post there as well and hop around there a little bit. And we are going to get ourselves on Instagram. I don't know if V is watching, but or Smiling Soul, please know that I will be getting on Instagram sometime in the near future. So, at any rate, one of the questions that came up recently, I believe it was by somebody, Tarot Discussions, I think, I'm not sure, asked, what is your favorite your all-time favorite tarot deck? And for me, that's an awfully, awfully hard question because I have so many. And it would be a real cop-out and a lie to say all of them because all of them have given me, such knowledge. I mean, a broader range of knowledge and perspective on, reading the cards. So even ones that I don't like or never gravitated to, I got something out of the experience of buying them and using them. So it's really kind of hard. Do you have anything that you could say right off the top of your head is your all-time favorite deck?
When I answered your Twitter
Yes.
thing myself about that, I indicated that the Los Scarable Secret Tarots is a stunning deck and that I really liked it a lot. It was one of my favorites. I don't really know if it's my all-time favorite. I'm not really sure, and I guess I haven't spent enough time thinking about that. There's been one or two decks I've had with Egyptian themes that I believe I really liked. But I also liked my original variation off of the Rider-Waite deck, the one that I had many years ago, back around 73, 74, I first got it. And I used it in the intro movie, but it's a very old deck and it's kind of very fragile, so I sparingly use it. And it has the same images as the Rider-Waite deck, but they're colored very vibrantly, almost like a 60s, 70s, psychedelic thing. And I like that a lot. I don't know, there's just so many decks. I too like the Enchanted Tarot by Monty Farber and Amy Zerner. I think that's a beautiful deck. I love the texture. There's so much detail in those drawings. It's just totally fabulous. But so I guess I can't really answer your question. I'm not really sure.
Well, it is a hard question for those of us who collect decks. And some of the ones that I picked are ones that I don't even use that much anymore, but they've always meant a lot to me. Like, for example, one of the choices that I gave, I think I gave my top five. I could get it down to my top five, and even then I kind of wiggled that a little bit. But my fifth choice was the Osho Zen Tarot, which I got many, many years ago, and it's a beautiful Zen, Eastern kind of symbologies on the cards deck that really is more affirmative or spiritually uplifting the messages that you receive. It's kind of I don't even know how to describe it. I will bring it down. I think one day we'll do a segment, or I'll do a video of Banshee's top five decks where I'll bring these out and show you. But that was top number five.
Hey, you know what I think? I think maybe we should try to show just a couple decks here and there throughout the month of Halloween.
Oh, yeah.
One of the ones I would bring, and I think you would too, because we both have our own copy, is of course the very, very cute and kitschy a little bit Halloween Tarot.
Absolutely.
I love that tarot.
You know, we should start reading with that one in October.
That would be fun to do that, yes.
Or maybe some of our cat decks, like the Black Cat, Tarot of the Black Cat.
Yeah, that would be nice too.
That would be awesome. You're right, we have some very cool Halloween style decks. There are also, like when we do our discussion on past lives and reincarnation,
I know what deck you're thinking
I have
of.
some reincarnation oracles that might be of interest to everybody. So we'll do a segment on that.
Right, when we start talking about things beyond tarot, I definitely could say that my favorite non-tarot oracle that I use is the Book of Doors, which is fashioned after the Egyptian cosmology. There's about 64, 68 cards, and they're incredible cards. There's an incredible reading style where you literally replicate a form of the hieroglyphics to just peer into the future with that. I love that deck, the Book of Doors.
Well, and you know, that's an interesting, if I recall right, because I have my own copy of that one too, I think. That one just seems like a really good one to play with at this time of year as well. Because
Yes.
it's a very deep,
I think you're right.
deep deck. Good for self-examination and exploration. So anyway, I was going to just, well, we were talking about decks. I was talking about my top five. I'm not going to go into all of them, but I do think I'll be able to remember which ones I chose because, you know, it could always change from day to day what my next ones are. But I will tell you that number four, or was it number four? It might have been number four or number three was every single Ciro Marchetti tarot deck I own. Which is maybe about three of them. I don't have all of Ciro Marchetti's tarot decks. I have some of his oracle decks besides, you know, the tarot. But the ones I have, I treasure. I just think they're fabulous. And of course, I've been reading most recently with his newest deck, the released by U.S. Games, the Tarot Grand Lux.
So we've been talking about a lot of tarot decks.
Yeah.
And other decks. And if anybody out there knows or has permission to use or give us the rights to use a tarot deck, on the screen right now, I'm indicating you can write to us at tfttarotfortoday@gmail.com to give us permission to use those. We will fully attribute your cards and display them here with our wonderful two-camera system when we're not displaying
And you know
Sunny
what?
Boy.
The big published decks are fantastic. I love using them. But if you are an independent publisher of tarot cards and you want us to feature them on our show, we'd be more than happy to do so.
That's right.
Absolutely. You know, it's interesting there. I keep staring at that one rune that's standing straight up there in the leaf bowl.
Oh,
Did you notice that? Did that just happen?
I don't know. What rune is that, Banshee?
Well, pop it out just a little higher because it's a bigger rune than I think is what's being displayed. It's a double X, isn't it?
Yeah, it's sort of like a weird kind of X, an X on top of an X
That's
with
correct.
a diamond in the center.
Because, you know, two X's are better than one.
Really?
Maybe.
Says who?
Well, says me. And as I stammer for my appropriate interpretation here, it's Inga's or Ing, the fertility rune, which is the symbol of the god, fertility, successful outcomes, a release of energy. It could indicate a birth, a new beginning, a new successful beginning, I should say, adjustment, sharing in relationships, projects completed, release from tension, confusion, clearing away of the old and making way for the new, problems resolved, a new job, love affair, or hey, some just plain old good luck. So I think you could see, I think that rune is kind of fortuitous.
Indeed.
Oh, goodness. Somebody wants their tummy rubbed. Alrighty then. So what do we want to do next? Do we want to go into my dream talk or save that? I wouldn't mind giving just the briefest of Brexit update.
Fine, go ahead.
Okay, in our last live stream, we did a very brief yes/no question about Brexit, where I asked a simple question: will Boris Johnson and Britain ask the EU for an extension before time runs out, which is, I believe it is October 31st, right? I think it is October 31st.
Right, and if you want to see just that part of the live stream, we have excerpted it, and it's a 5-minute YouTube at our channel called Brexit Prediction Part 2. And it's 5 minutes long, and we basically get to that quite well.
Yeah, and so basically, I got a definite yes there with not much else to go on. It's too bad, you know, I didn't think about it at the time to toss a couple Lenormand cards for that.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, no. But I would say that the way things are shaping up right now, it sounds as though I did make a comment, I believe, in that live stream, that I felt that Boris Johnson definitely did not want to do this. He absolutely was not into asking for the extension. So the fact that I got a definite yes kind of puzzled me. But I see now that Parliament, you know, those in Parliament who really want the extension are desperately trying to work on a workaround where they can work around Boris Johnson and make the extension happen in some parliamentary way. So I'm thinking maybe that's how it's going to shake out, and that I was right, that they will ask for it. We'll see. You never know. And you know, I took a little gamble on that because I like to try to reach and you know, do some predicting, not just for people personally, but for society, societal trends, things that just don't get too political. I mean, I'm not taking any sides in this Brexit debate by doing the cards the way I am. I think I'm laying out the facts. And so I just try to do an objective reading to see where things might be headed.
Right, and in the future we may do more of these too. We had previously done the first part of her idea about Brexit, but
Yes.
we've also talked about the possible political challenges around the climate change situation.
We talked about the fires in the Amazon.
Right, and then we also briefly talked about the idea of predicting 2 years out, literally, or more than a year out, who the next president will be. So those are things that we somewhat feel comfortable with, but we want to caution ourselves as well as others that the actual partisan level of politics is not what we're about
No,
here.
no.
It's really about trying to figure out what these things are foretelling.
And yes, we do have our, obviously we do have our political beliefs and whatnot, but our goal as readers, in these kinds of situations, is to just try to get to the bottom of things from an objective level. And I try not to color it with, my political feelings on the matter. But if I see something's leaning a certain way with the cards, I am going to reflect on that. And, whenever we do these things live, we love it if other people with knowledge of the cards are listening and they want to put in their opinions on the chat, what they see through the cards. Not necessarily just based on the political perspective, but where the cards are telling them things are going. It's awesome. We love that kind of sharing.
We want to be readers here, but we're also hoping to create an area of interaction with other readers or with people who are seeking questions about the nature of readings or about the nature of tarot cards and divination, because we're also educators in our own way too. And the more people that we can get reading cards, then the easier it is for us to get all of those concepts understood on more of a collective level, and maybe at some point collectively a mass number of people having the same knowledge and information will impact on or for the betterment of society.
Oh, hey, LS, welcome for joining us. You didn't know we were live. Oh, you didn't see oh no, did you not? You are a subscriber, right? I wonder if the message did not go out somehow.
I actually don't have their message here. Where are they?
LS. No, when we go live on our YouTube channel, it usually lets people know that we're live. So that are subscribers. So I wonder if it's just the way we set it up this time. We'll have to look into that.
They're not showing in my chat, so that's a little bit of a concern here.
Oh, you don't see LS?
No.
Oh, well, you are with me, LS, and I will keep. Well, it might be the way we did things a little bit differently this time to make sure there weren't any glitches with us coming up live on time. So I'm wondering if that played into the fact that the message didn't go out the way it should to subscribers. So my apologies for that. I know it went out to Facebook and Twitter because we sent the link there. We will look into that, and I will talk with my producer about that because maybe we'll have to be aware of that in the future. But I'm glad you joined us. I'm absolutely glad you caught us because guess what, LS? I brought something you might be interested in seeing.
Go for it.
All right, you got the side one going?
Okay, hold on.
I found one of my many copies of the Gypsy Witch cards I was talking about the last time. And so that's kind of what it looks like. And I'll tell you, this deck and this concept has been around since the 1940s. And back then, the box itself was kind of maybe a velvety or velour cover on the box. And it had it was a box with a lid, not a flip top like this one was. And so it's been around an awfully long time. My aunts used to use this way back in the day to do divination. So now I'm going to show you a couple of things about these cards because one thing I've noticed, and I haven't gone and compared them all with the Lenormand, but some of the playing card associations with the, let's say like the Rider, I don't know what card is on the Rider and the Lenormand. I should look. But number 14 is the Rider in this deck, and it has the Jack of Diamonds on it. So there's their Rider, and as you can see, the cards actually give you an interpretation on them, so you don't have to go into the booklet to read anything. And also it will tell you different things that could happen if this card is next to certain other cards. So like, for example, with number 14, the Rider, it says, the Rider is a sure sign of good news, unless it's alongside of cards number 6, 8, 11, or 13. So then you would have problems. And look, I have number 6 right here. So if the rider was next to number 6 is the coffin. So the coffin indicates that, obviously endings, possibly death. So obviously, if you had the rider with the coffin, it almost sounds like a natural that you might be getting news of a death or something coming to an abrupt end in your life, a situation, a relationship, and there would be news. So you can see that, and I think let me think if I get this right, the Lenormand, which I have my darn Lenormand here, I could just check. But the Lenormand, the coffin is number 8, I believe. Number 6 in the Lenormand is the clouds. So there are differences, but a lot of the same symbology is in this Gypsy Witch deck. And so just to give you a little bit more of an example, I'm just going to read off some of them. There's a house card, and he might show a few as I drop them down. There's a house card. Now here's one that's not in the Lenormand. There's a lion card. There's actually number 51. So there's at least 51, and I think there might be 52 cards in this deck. There's the sixth or the
Where has it been all your life? I actually was very drawn to it as a child back in the late 1960s because I loved that backing of the card, the witch and the cat sitting by her cauldron and the moon overhead. To me, that was so enchanting. I just loved that part of it.
I was trying to see if I had any. I noticed that there was no indication on these cards. There's an extra joker. I want to get those out. Of what date this particular one was published, which is interesting to me. But that's what I've noticed with some of these old divination decks. It's hard to find the paper trails, so to speak. There's a fox in this one as well. That's number 11. There's a railroad, which the railroad indicates, of course, a journey. And it also foretells if it's near number 44, which I'm not sure which card that is, it could indicate an accident. If near 29, a robbery. So see, these cards really got down to the nitty-gritty things that people were interested and worried about in their lives.
Railroad.
And back in the day, people
Does it
didn't.
have every single 52 card?
I believe it does. I don't know which one.
Because the other day when we were talking about this, I thought you mentioned it didn't have them all.
I thought it actually
but that it
only
had
went
more
up to
than
49.
the Lenormand.
But I'm wrong again. And it's probably got a 50-second card. I'm just not sure what it is. Because unfortunately, they're not. Here it is. Here's number 52.
Okay.
There's no more than that. And that one is the shepherd.
So that would be a yes then, I guess, that there is 52 cards in this deck.
Yeah, so I believe they are associated with playing card cartomancy. And so that's kind of awesome to me. Now, here, I wanted to show her the deck. I wanted to show her something. It only comes with this little booklet. Let's show that first. And like the Lenormand, it's got two big ways of reading them. For example, there is something they call the short reading, and then there's something they call the long reading. But the short reading's not that short, as you'll see. This is the layout schematic for the short reading. You might want to get that one really close to get those numbers in there for her to see, and anybody else viewing. So that's basic layout for the reading. And that box that's in the center there, basically the box in the center, that is the cards you would read most, because that's the one that's going to surround the significator card. The cards that are closest to the significator card, which is always put in the center, is the ones that matter most in the reading. The ones that are further off have lesser effect, generally. And then, like the Lenormand,
Very short.
here's the long one with probably every card.
Hold your breath, Ellis.
Yeah,
Jeez.
I know. Just look at that. So you can see this is really old school stuff here. Yeah, so we loved this deck, but again, it can give you some scary things. Nobody wants to hear, oh my gosh, I might get in a possible accident or whatever. And how many times has this come out? Well, the thing for me is if I do readings of these kind of cards and I'm looking for what might go wrong in my life like that, is somebody going to die? I know somebody's in the hospital right now. Are they going to be all right? If I'm looking at those kind of issues, I will do a reading a day or so, and I won't be really looking at the whole reading, but I will be looking for trends. Do I see things popping up again with something bad happening? Do I see something reinforcing my first reading? I look for those key indicators because really, if you do your cards over and over again, day in and day out, you're kind of muddling the streams mostly.
I think
Unless,
Ellis' comment is very
okay,
apropos that divination used to be more intense. And I believe
indeed.
that's true, that the whole idea behind divination was probably, at least from hundreds of years ago, more related to the aristocracy. And well, what do we know about them? They sat around kind of a little bit bored in their mansions or palaces. And so the court astrologer, the court tarot card reader would spend hours going over these readings. And so, in order to keep these folks entertained, there would be these long readings. And I think you see some of that epitomized in culture that relates to those times. I know that I used to watch a TV show called Dark Shadows, a soap opera, and they had a flashback to hundreds of years ago. And a countess was reading the tarot cards for some member of the family. And it was a long reading. It was at least 12 cards, which for TV conventions would have been considered long because they were all laid out in rows and rows. They were probably more than 12. And I've seen that in other cultural depictions too, that it's literally like a story.
Well, but I also don't think it's like the length of the reading that's a big deal, but it's the kind of areas that they cover and how they cover them. For example, today, recently I started following on Twitter a tarot author, James Rickliff, who says on his Twitter page, I believe, I hope I'm not getting this wrong, but he basically says, I am not a fortune teller, I'm a fortune helper. And I think that might be the difference today. People were more into predicting their futures and what was going to happen in their everyday lives, where I think a lot of readers today are more into how can I help you make your life better? And they focus on the more positive and life affirming aspects of how, we can make our lives better and, go get through the processes of grief or worry and stress rather than telling you what may in fact lie ahead for you. And I still like to do a little bit of both, frankly, because that's where I've always been with fortune telling. I want to be a fortune teller, but I also do want to be a fortune helper. So I thought his words and his terminology was saying what he did was awesome. How do you feel about that?
I agree. And I like what Ellis is saying too.
Yeah, less intimidating.
Wow, you really joined in on that chat. Thank you so much. That's a lot to think about
Yeah.
there. And I think that maybe to some degree, that's what we've tried to do over the course of our careers as readers. Part of that is really, no matter if the reading is shorter or longer, trying to really explain the function of the reading and how it's structured and how you're going through that. More information, is always good for people.
Absolutely. Well, so it sort of explains why maybe some of our YouTubers didn't show up today. That's unfortunate, but we will make sure that doesn't happen next time. I got to look into a couple things with our producer. But anyway, hey, Ellis, you are here today, so if you would like a reading, just say the word.
I want to say one more comment
Oh,
too, and that is
sure.
that we both have noticed, this is per Ellis' comment too, about how when you read for certain organizations or events or things, the promoters may counsel people to not dwell on negative or to try to avoid giving negative outcomes and to try to accentuate positive. And we've heard that specifically from some other readers. And I don't know. I think we've discussed this before. We don't always know that we agree that that's the best thing to do. It kind of reminds me of the Monty Python movie. I don't know if you're familiar with Monty Python, but there was that one spoofy song, and one of them, always look at the bright side of life. And I think it was during a crucifixion scene. So,
Oh dear.
there is kind of a tendency in some parts of the Western world to not want to talk about negative subjects because, well, I guess negativity doesn't sell, and Western society is mostly about trying to sell things. So,
Well, I think it's more than that. We are always worried about, people's fragility today, and to some extent I can understand that. But in this world, like I said, bad things happen, and sometimes we have to grieve, sometimes we have to get angry. We have to work through these things, though. We have to work through these things and not ignore them and not pretend they don't exist. I think that's a danger, with always looking on the bright side of everything. I feel I am overall a positive person, but I certainly have my moments where, hey, you have to deal with the shadow. You have to deal with the dark side of life.
about 28 or 29 years ago, I did have a Vedic chart done for myself, and I went to that astrologer and heard their interpretation. And it was pretty intense because there were some things that were very specific. Like they told me specifically when I would die, and good news, it still hasn't happened yet. And they told me some specific years about when I would meet the most specific, important people in my life. And that is more or less been true. I believe that to be true. So there were, every once in a while, I try to listen to that. Again, it's on a tape, so I don't know how I'm going to listen to it the next time because I don't have a tape player anymore, a cassette tape player.
Oh man,
But
see, that's what happens when technology changes.
to try to go back and review what was said because there's a record of it and then say, well, that did kind of happen or that didn't happen. And like I said, it mostly seems, yeah, they're very serious about death dates. So like I said, good news, I have more than 20 years ahead of me. Yay. I hope they're right. Hi, Smiling Soul. Glad you joined us.
Hi, Smiling Soul. We're sorry if you didn't get the YouTube reminder. We might have had a little glitch with that, but at least we got our live stream going on time today. That's what was really, because last time we really got messed up.
Smiling Soul, I took down the fall fashion Dow display that we were doing at the local bakery. And I thought of you because, of course, I carefully packed up the doll that was wearing the Fashion Week outfit. And I think maybe there'll be a little surprise for you later in the week. We'll see.
Yes, a
we'll
new
see.
display
Yes.
is up, and let's just say it's a seasonal one.
Ah, okay. So you didn't get the message either. So we're going to talk to our producer about it. Something went kind of funny, not as bad as last time where we were delayed by 10 or more minutes, but we weren't seeing anything going on in our chat, and then all of a sudden LS showed up, and so it was just kind of odd because we had a
No,
feeling like maybe there was some connection thing that wasn't quite there.
I think what happened was, well, I'm not going to get into it, but we did something different when we started our live stream today, and it might have played into the YouTube not getting the message out how it should for that we were going live. So, but it did ensure that we started on time.
Yeah, that was a good thing.
But I do think I'm going to talk because I really think that's what happened. And it's really, to me, very important that our YouTube subscribers get our notification. So we may have to
Absolutely.
adjust how we're starting up next time. We experimented this time. And actually, for some things, it worked great, but apparently not for that. So my apologies to both of you. And, I'm glad you joined us. And we are definitely open for readings right now. LS was here first. So, LS, is there anything you would like us to read for you about today?
My son told me that sometimes it's just a YouTube problem too, like maybe it was YouTube's fault that their notifications didn't happen. So we're not going to beat ourselves up too
No.
much, but we are going to try to run it down and see what we can figure out.
No, because I do think we did something different this time, and we have to take that into account that YouTube did not understand when we were starting our live stream in earnest. And so,
Okay, Alice, you want some guidance today. So, do you want more of a general reading or do you have a specific question?
do you want to use this deck for that one?
Sure, we can go ahead with that deck. That's good. We're going to start shuffling for that. I'll give you a moment to think about either your question or whether you want more general or not.
And after we do some readings, we're going to get into some talk about dream interpretation.
Yes, we know that some of our viewers have been interested in the dream stuff too, as are we.
So I brought a few things down to talk about and give you some ideas. So,
Thank you for sharing that too, Smiling
let's
Soul.
see. So LS, just let us know if you wanted general guidance or just
Nightbot
a
finally
particular
kicked in.
question. You see, Nightbot is up. How to work better in this new environment I'm in, as I've been having some trouble. Okay. Why don't you shuffle, and I'm just going to see if I have anything that might be helpful with that. As far as the spread goes. I'm not sure, but I want to look at one more thing.
Smiling Soul says that they sent something about what they drink too. So we'll look at that.
Well, I think we're going to wing this one.
Okay. I'm going to cut them for you.
Okay, so basically,
How to work better in the
I
environment
think
you're
what
in.
we will do is where you're at right now, some information about the environment you're in presently, and where things are headed. So it's in a way like a past, present, future, but not quite. So really, where you're at right now? Whoa.
Oh, I hope not.
Well, I have some thoughts about that. You got the Devil card, and I think that where you're at right now is you're kind of feeling restricted in some way, like you feel like you don't feel comfortable, if not being yourself. You're not comfortable with the people you're around right now, and you're trying to find out what you need to do. It's holding you back, maybe from your expressing yourself as freely as you would like.
It's definitely looks like a power over situation where you are looking at where you're at in the power structure and you probably don't find you have the power right now, that maybe you're the person who is kind of chained or bonded to that situation. To some degree, you sort of feel like you have the freedom to leave it, but you would be making a total break.
Okay, and now this is about the environment itself more directly.
Yes, damn that devil.
And darn that hanged man reversed. It seems as though, in the environment right now, you're being called upon to sacrifice something in some ways. Whether it's ways that you've lived your life previously, you have to make a lot of adjusting in order to adapt to this present situation.
And I get the feeling that it is a little bit hard for you to embrace that idea that it's something that you actually don't want to sacrifice. But on another level, inside that doing this really is helpful, promotion, something like that. Yet you feel like maybe you're giving up something you really clearly are not totally prepared to do on that.
And the final card is what direction things are heading in. That's a nice, powerful card to end with. It seems as though, you're going to find
It's justice.
you're going to find your balance. You're going to find your stable point. I think it's a matter of time. Definitely here. What would you say?
Well, I don't know what the timing is. I'd like to think that justice is usually more immediate, but it isn't always. But I do feel this is about justice. This is about correcting the situation. And so the thing is that if there is some situation where you do actually have to speak up for yourself or try to show where your part is in this or stand up for yourself, it looks to me like more or less it's on your side, that if you do have to talk to management or somebody who's actually in charge more, this may be that moment that you may have to put up with that. And I don't know how long that'll take. I'm thinking that probably it's within several weeks, a month or so. It's just an intuitive feel I have for that. So I hope that that's a good answer. I hope that that does happen that soon, if
I
not
would say
sooner.
maybe a little bit longer than that, but I'd go about 8 weeks. I would also say that basically, if this isn't about a specific work situation, just about maybe your environment where you live, the culture or the community you live in, it's just going to take time for you to find that nice steady balance. But I think you will. I think you will know just, what the parameters are, what the expectations are, and whether or not you will be able to adapt and live with that.
It sounds good to me. So you're going to do
I'm going to
Lenormand?
pull a couple of Lenormand
All right.
and see if we get any other insight here.
Smiling Soul says hi to the kitty, or love to the kitty, and the kitty snores a little bit.
Kitty is asleep like you wouldn't believe here. Eyes are shut.
But he is our charm. He is our sacred charm for good readings. We don't know how he does it, but he seems to add the good energy we want.
Oh, I love this. I love this combination. So I want him to show those.
So the first card is a bear. It's a polar bear, exactly, I guess. Kind of ascending in a way is what I get from that. And then the second card is, of course, a nice card, the moon. I like that. It sort of signifies a celestial calming to me.
Would you, the non-Lenormand person, like to go first?
Well, I sort of said that the bear is in the process of ascending, climbing out of the water. This is sort of representing a dual capability, somebody that is comfortable on maybe multiple environments. Somebody that is comfortable in the water as well as climbing a mountain. The moon to me is signifying some sort of celestial harmony or serenity, a calming.
Okay. So now what I would say about the two cards together is that the bear is indicative of your own personal power and, how you feel empowered. And the moon is a card of success. It could be in the workplace. It could be in education. It could be just in some area of importance in your life. In other words, I think you are going to be successful in finding your center and feeling your power. So you should be able to move forward confidently, in this situation, in the future. This is a very positive combination together.
If I can have your attention just for a moment, Ellis, would you say that the actual trouble you've been having is related to whatever is embodied by the devil card, i.e., a bad manager or an oppressive personality?
Or just an oppressive environment.
An oppressive environment. But I'm wondering if that's the trouble, is that actual oppression that this devil is giving us. Because I want to pull another card to tell you if I think, just as a final card, what that might be or what that seems to be. And so I'm thinking that when I think about the devil, what that card represents in this thing, okay, I'm pulling a card and I'm going to ask you a question because this is kind of interesting. The environment you're in, is there a sense of a family running it or some sort of team that is in place, and it's like hard to get into that team. Like maybe there's ranks of some sort, and so you're
It's not a
there.
boss or anything.
Okay, but what I'm saying is I get the feeling like maybe it's a clique, I guess. There's a clique and you're on the outside of the clique, and it's the clique that is sort of the oppressive environment, that there's maybe a group of people or a situation that is sort of bordered by that mindset or that collective thing there, and you're not on that side of it, and maybe that's why if you could figure out if you could be there, if you want to be there, I mean,
Or just
clicks.
how to be more accepted for who you are.
Yeah, I tend to not like clicks and tend to shun clicks, but it may be beneficial for you to try to get more involved into that culture. Maybe we're talking about the culture, and so you have to stand up for yourself and see if, yeah, middle school, yeah, over here in the States, we say junior high, like, oh my God, they're still so junior high, you know. But I get the feeling like there is a collective mindset there, and it probably isn't really your thing. So you have to resolve how you want to relate to it, how you can stand up for yourself and still be productive and still feel like you are respected on your own terms if you can't or don't want to be in that collectivity. Okay, I guess that's that for
Yeah,
that.
that's
So I
that.
hope that helped you a little bit.
But more about.
Ah, clicks might not have been the right word. Maybe it's just the sense of a power structure.
Well, yeah, I hope that did help you out a little bit. Hey, Smiling Soul, do you have anything on your plate today? Would you like us to do a reading for you on anything in particular? Okay. So what do you have in mind? What's on your mind? Ah,
Ah, that's interesting too. Yeah, you're sort of fighting the machine in a way, Ellis, with your
yeah.
situation.
Well, hang in there because, it seems as though you're gonna be able to find your space.
So, Smiling Soul, earlier before you joined us, we were talking about how on Twitter and on Facebook we're going to be sharing our Halloween haiku. Haiku is a form of poetry from Japan, but it's very popular in America right now. It's short and brief, and we're going to start that on October 1st. So we think that'll be fun. And like we said, it's going to be on our Facebook, but it'll also show up on our Twitter too. So we hope you and others will have a little fun.
Hopefully, get a little laugh or two. We like to think some of them are funny, some of them are just a little cute, some of them are, well, shall we say, just a little corny, because that's what we are.
Okay, I'm hearing what your question is too, Smiling Soul.
Yes. So
You're
you want to know the intentions of somebody as far
right. Are you going to
as.
waste your time if you
Yeah.
try to connect more with them, or uh, will they be helpful or not?
Okay. I'm going to let you shuffle. What did you drop?
The Four of Cups.
Oh,
Well, there's a bit of, this is something that I just dropped. So sometimes when I drop a card, it may have some significance. It sometimes usually does. And I dropped the Four of Cups. And that says that this is something that really does concern you at the thought level, that you are really thinking about this, and that within your own mind or meditations on this matter, you do see that there's more than one possibility about what their intentions could be. So we're going to see if we can possibly get more information on that.
I think I'm going to kind of modify a 3-card reading I have here for you, Smiling Soul. This isn't exactly, I don't know if you would call this person a potential business partner, but I'm going to say that this is about the present relationship with this person. In other words, what's going on between the two of you, just to get that idea. And then the next card will be the present state of affairs, where this is headed, basically. I'd say where it's headed, and if there's any future, yes or no. So, present, next 3 months of it, I would say, and then is there any future beyond that? Actually, I'm modifying that. Holding the cards here, and I just got another thing I should do with this. We're going to do the present state of communicating with this person, the strengths or weaknesses of working with this person, and where it's all headed. And I would still say, let's say, up to 3 months from now. Okay, so the first card. Whoa.
The Nine of Cups.
Yeah. The first card of the is the Nine of Cups here. I can't say that you're wasting your time with this person. I'd say that basically right now this is a person who could potentially, whether they will do it or not remains to be seen, but who could potentially do a lot for you.
This person is definitely a good person for you if that connection works out. This person seems to have some of the keys to the kingdom that you're probably looking for. This person can help you realize some of your goals and help you understand what good forces you are gaining in your life and will continue to gain, I guess.
The second card is basically the strengths or weaknesses of working with this person. Well, and there are some. Yeah. I'm not really sure what to say about this. There's Three of Swords is a card of some despair here or some gloom. Maybe there is some serious doubts, or maybe because of some past losses or setbacks that you're having doubts or worries about connecting with this person. Maybe you're afraid of failure before failure even happens.
Well, if this card is more about that other person, the PR person, I get the feeling like they're pretty good at cutting the things out of their life that they don't need or want. Some of that might be about emotionality, that they may be a real straightforward business person and they're not looking for things that suggest emotional weakness. They want strong, balanced emotions in persons. So that could be one of the things, is that if they feel you portray yourself as not strong enough emotionally, they may not want to work with you. But if you're able to really kind of compartmentalize some of that, then they might find you that. And that's not a judgment on my part. That's saying that what I see with that person, that they're just sort of like, they don't have time for emotionality in their life and they really want to remain on a business level.
So you're trying to say these people want to avoid drama? Is that it?
Yeah, that could be another way of
Okay,
saying that. Yeah,
okay.
that they're not into the drama stuff.
Okay, so the third card is where things are headed with this relationship.
Straightforward.
Holy cannoli.
Queen of Wands. Oh, wow. So this is either you or her, or the synthesis of you and her. The Queen of Wands is a very magnetic, compelling person, somebody that's able to pull things to them. So if this is that person, she's going to pull you into her orbit because she sees something there that she can work with. It could also be too that that's what she's going to make of you, that she's going to teach you how to be this compelling, attractive personality to magnetize the goals in your life and find ways to create enterprise and partnerships with yourself and the right people. Is that what you think too, maybe?
Well, what you said, I absolutely. That
Sounds
is
pretty
such a
strong.
That's very strong sign here. Tell me something. Do you happen to know, by chance, if this person you're dealing with is a fire sign?
And I'm trying to remember Smiling Soul, what sign you told us you were? Do you remember? If Smiling Soul told us
I
what
cannot
sign you were?
remember.
You're not a fire sign, are
Okay,
you?
no.
Are you a
Okay.
Leo?
Yeah, because this is also fire sign energy, of course, being the
Right, you
wands.
would have to know their birth date, and that may not have
Yeah.
happened at this point. But even if they're not specifically a fire sign, there is something about fire sign qualities about this card. And from an astrology point of view, we have all the signs of the zodiac within our chart. Some of them are accentuated differently. So it's, you, I thought you were an air sign, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And to some degree, Geminis and air signs have a better affinity with the fire sign energies. If I recall right, Gemini's opposite sign is Sagittarius, right?
Yes.
Which is the fire sign. And so that means that Sagittarians sort of have
She's a go-getter.
a relationship with you too, in a way. They're sort of like your dark twin, or you're sort of like their dark twin. That you each have complementary types of personalities and energies. What are these for?
Well, I drew some.
Okay, so Banshee has drawn two Lenormands for texture in the reading. And the first one is the 29th card, which is the woman, right? So this tends to represent you.
Well, it could also represent this other person, but I do think it's representing you. There's a lot of hope here. There's a lot of positive energy surrounding this potential
Look
relationship,
what Smiling Soul
partnership.
said.
She knows some big celebrities. Oh my
And we
gosh.
have a star here. We have a
Yeah,
star,
yeah.
the star card. So that's kind of interesting. It says to me that there is something immediately so magnetic here and attractive that if you are able to play the cards right, as they say, that maybe this person could help you meet some really cool people that might help your career.
Yeah,
So
I like this
that's very cool.
combination.
I like that. Yeah.
You've had a very, very positive reading overall today, Smiling Soul. So
Ellis
awesome.
concurs with me. Opposite signs mirror each other. It's very true. My opposite sign is Taurus, and I find that Tauruses and myself tend to have special relationships, and that we do sort of represent better or lesser qualities of each other. We mirror them in a strange sort of way. Uh, Other
And maybe that's
astrologers,
how we gotten along this far.
you're not my opposite sign.
I'm a Aries Taurus cuspy. I'm
Okay,
right there,
perhaps.
1 hour before Taurus entered, the sun entered Taurus when I was born. So hey, I've got that Taurus energy.
And Smiling Soul just gave us a little bit more information there. So I would say, you know, possibly do whatever it takes so that you can get into that loop.
Yeah, if this person, if you, I'd say this sounds like a very positive relationship from what the cards are indicating to us. Has the potential to be.
So let's take a minor segue and talk about astrology and opposite signs a little bit. And I'm actually going to bring up something else that's a little different. My non-opposite sign is apparently Capricorn. I have an astrologer friend who says that my sign's Scorpio. I think she puts it this way. She says Scorpios are impatient Capricorns, and Capricorns are patient Scorpios. And of course, she herself is a Capricorn, my good friend Cindy, and I am a Scorpio. And so she looks at me, I think, and she sees me as having a lot of her qualities, but being impatient in general. And then she looks at herself and she says, well, I like your dark side, Scorpio, Obi, but I'm a little bit more patient about how I enact that dark side.
You're
Oh,
welcome,
that's
Smiling
interesting.
Soul.
Emotionally intense Virgos, and I have some intense relationships with some Virgos. I admit it. There's one Virgo in my
Yeah,
family,
I've
and
had up
there's a
and down.
Virgo or two at work who my relationships with them, I think, are more likely to be considered difficult, if anything. Thank you for sharing that. And once again, so those are both air signs, just like, or earth signs, just like Taurus. And so water sign like myself normally would get along with an earth sign, but they tend to be a little bit sketchy. I mean, I love them, but there's like just little pinpricks or speed bumps in some of our relationships at times. A speed bump. How interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, I was going to talk a little bit today.
You are welcome for the reading.
I was going to talk a little bit today about dream interpretation and our dreams. Fortunately, I couldn't find a couple of the things I wanted to show today, but I do have a few. This particular thing I have is called the Dream Inspirational Cards. You can just hold up the box there. And basically, when I bought it, I thought, oh, this is going to help me interpret my dreams. What a concept to have a deck of cards that will help me do that. And I'm not going to say I was disappointed thereof, but it wasn't what I expected. Basically, the authors of this Low Scarabeo deck created a deck that uses a lot of the main images and symbologies of dreams and creates a divination deck out of that. And so, I mean, if you find your dream symbol in this deck, you could use it to look up what their meaning is for that particular symbol. But it's more about actually using dream kind of images to divine your future. So I was kind of disappointed that it wasn't what I thought it was, but it's not a bad deck. I want to just show you some of the images to give you an example. And the backs of the cards are really nice. This is the backs of the cards. And some of the symbology on it, is things that you would probably dream about. There's one that's a moon. There's one that's about music. I'm going to...
So the cards are all numbered.
Yes. There's a shouting. And actually, Oberon, there are 78 cards like a tarot deck. And so it's really interesting to me, but as far as I can tell, there is no association with the tarot.
Well, this is very interesting because I have a deck of tarot cards that has an Egyptian motif about it. But once again, it is not aligned with suits. It's aligned with numbers and with usually one-word comments about what the card implies.
Here is one about
I'd like to compare those two
merchants.
decks.
And I'm going to look that up for a minute, and I want to see what they say about merchants in here. Just to give you an idea of what you would get if you were looking that up. I dreamt about being in a shop.
Alice likes the sun and the moon behind us.
Oh, thank you.
Or the star and the moon. The sun, the star.
I always make sure the star is behind me.
Why?
I tease him, it's because I am the star. But of course, he is the sun.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, I just tease him. The Merchants is actually about attractions, sensuality, and fulfilled desires. Well, obviously, we all love to shop. So maybe that's why they came up with those interpretations. So anyway, you can use tools like the tarot and things to help you interpret and come to terms with your dreams. But also, there are a number of great books out there about exploring your dreams in a variety of different ways.
So we have some comments there we should address,
Okay.
perhaps.
Any one of them know anything about Goldfinger or the gold touch turning things into gold? I may actually have a Midas card in here. I'm not even sure about that, which is kind of interesting. Let me see if I can find one. The one other fault I had with this deck was they're numbered from 1 to 78. And let me just say that the book does not have these in alphabetical order. They're in number order. And so there is no rhyme or reason to find things. You have to literally go through the whole thing. So it does make things a little bit complicated, for my purposes. But, and I don't see one in here, but I swear I thought I did see one before. I could be mistaken.
The story about turning things to gold with your finger touching it, the golden touch, is a parable that goes back in various times to various stories. And I believe the most famous one is Midas. And the idea was that this was a person who felt they needed more, And so eventually they somehow were gifted with this touch of gold. and everything they touched turned to gold. And so they were just so incredibly happy about that they went around touching everything. And then somewhere along the way in the story, they accidentally turned a human being into gold. It might have been their child or something like that. And so there's a great profound sadness that comes when they realize that they've gone too far, that their attachment to gold caused them to do this. And that was kind of a moralistic parable that said that all that glitters is not gold, that you should be grateful for some of the other things in your life besides gold. And I don't know if that's what your dream's telling you, but that is kind of the parable of the golden touch.
So at any rate, back in the day when my mom and aunts used to dream a lot and interpret their dreams, they are no longer with us, but they used to always look for number associations in dreams. What should I play in the lottery or, in games of chance that they did at the time. So they would get things like, and you are familiar with this one, Oberon,
A little bit, yes.
the Three Wise Men Dream Book, which I do believe still comes out today. And then there's this goofy little thing. Let me see how old this one is. Hey, the price on this was $2, so it must be really old. Oh, I cannot see a copyright again. See?
Hey, look who's joined us. King A.
Hey, King A, welcome, welcome. Take a look at that one. That's another one. And so basically, this one would give you some dream interpretations, but it would focus on that one in particular gives some dream interpretations. This one here, to show the open book, is all about giving you numbers for different symbols in your dreams and what to play.
So let's bring King A up to speed because they want to be in line for a reading, but we are talking about dreaming right now. So we'll be happy to get to your reading in a moment. You could be the next person in line, actually.
Actually, you probably will be. And we apologize again if you're a subscriber and you did not get a notification. Something went a little amiss with that, apparently. Hopefully, we'll have that figured out next time. So basically, back in the day, a lot of people were interested in their dreams for those kinds of messages, but also they were interested in what the dreams might mean, the symbology of the dreams. And I got a nice book in the modern era. I think this is circa, let me just get the year on this before I tell you what it is, circa 1996. And this is Mary Summer Rain's Guide to Dream Symbols. And so let's say, for example, I want to look up, I don't know if it'll be in here, but I'm going to try it. Pennies. What if you dreamt about pennies in a dream? Is there something that specific in here, and what would it mean? Well, yes, penny. It says, see money. Which I should have thought of that, of course. So you would look up money and see what it has to tell you. And for this one, it says for money stands for riches. Gold signifies, you might take note of this, smiling soul, gold signifies physical wealth. Paper money stands for opportunities to share wealth. Silver denotes spiritual wealth. Now,
Alice wants to know if there's dough.
Dough?
Yeah. And of course, in American culture, dough is a slang term for money. Give me some dough.
But if you're meaning cooking dough, let's see what we've got. Dough is in this book, and this particular person interprets it as emphasizes the beginnings of specific aspects coming together, a period that precedes ultimate physical manifestation. So there's all kinds of helpful books like that out there. I haven't bought any dream interpretation books in a while. There's also books on shamanic dreaming. There's books like Ted Andrews, who is no longer with us as well. He has passed on. Amazing shamanistic books that he has written. He did a book called Dream Alchemy, which is how to work with your dreams on a shamanistic level. And just an awesome book. Just an awesome book.
I tend to believe that for most people, dreaming is subconscious talking to us when we sleep, and that the symbologies tend to be culturally based, that if you live in a culture where an owl means one thing, it may not mean the same when you dream of that as if a person in another part of the world does. But to some degree, there is a universality about dream symbols.
Yes.
On the other hand, I do think that people that are more involved in mysticism or esoteric practices, that some of their dreams may have different kind of meanings. They may be more about esoterics in general. They may be more about communication with other realms of in various ways.
I think one of the most beneficial things about keeping a dream journal in my mind is that, you dreamt about gold one year, things happened, and maybe you can make notes of that in your journal. You dream about gold in another year, and the same thing happens. You look it up and you got a different interpretation. So what is that telling you? It's telling you that that symbol means something different for you. And if you keep your own dream journal, you'll have a better handle on what the symbology means to you personally, because I do think dreams are a very personal experience and they don't always mean the same thing for everybody. However, these are good guidelines, to lead you on the proper track. And it's up to you if you want to take your dreams seriously to kind of record them and look back and see what meaning they've had in your life.
And we will probably talk about dreams more. This is a great time of the year to talk about
Yes.
dreaming. But we want to get to that reading for
We will
King
in a
A,
moment, but I'm not finished yet.
Oh, okay. Well, I was going to just bring King A up to snuff too. Earlier today, we
Yes, you can do
talked
that.
about the Halloween haiku that we'll be presenting on our Facebook and our Twitter page. And if you don't know, haiku is a Japanese poetic form. It's very brief, so these are very easily readable.
It's kind of like tweets.
They could be a little spiritual or serenity based, but there also can be silly, comical based. And we have done dozens of Halloween video or haikus that we're going to be sharing over this month of October.
So
All
I
right.
just want to end my talk, if I could, with a couple of things. I did a quick dream interpretation spread that I created, a 3-card one previously, but in my little notebook I also have a more in-depth one that is 6 cards long, and I call the key to unlocking my dream spread. And as you can see, I kind of made it in the shape of a key there, and it is a 6-card reading. And also, I know that other tarot spread producers have created their own dream interpretation spreads. And I would just like to show one from a book I got that was published in England. It's called The Tarot Abecedarian, and it's The Treasure House of Images by A.R. Naylor. And he has one called Dream Interpretation, and this is his spread right here. Just to show you, there's a variety of spreads that can be helpful with dream interpretation, but also feel free to come up with your own ideas. Like, for example, sit down with a deck if you have one, whatever favorite oracle deck you have, and if you have a dream that troubles you or you want to know more about it, come up with those questions in your mind first. Just jot a few down and say, like, for example, what does this symbology mean in my dream? What is the total meaning of my dream? Just kind of focus on a few key things that you really want to know about that particular dream and the impact it could be having on you, and go with that. Anybody can do this, and I think that it's helpful for you sometimes to analyze them on your own. But of course, we have some knowledge and experience in that area, so if you ever need us to help you with dream interpretation, we're here for that.
I did take some coursework in college on dream interpretation.
Yes, you did.
And I still have some of that material. And like I said, that kind of informs my view that mostly dreams are about our subconscious trying to talk to us. And typically people that I consult with will often have what I consider to be the classic anxiety dream, where you just can't seem to get to where you're going. Something keeps interrupting. You keep having delays, the dreams that seem
You
to
mean
take
like going to the bathroom?
things like that. Absolutely.
And
I
you
just
gotta be
think
somewhere.
that somehow that's the subconscious telling you that there's just maybe too much going on in your life and you need to somehow, turf it off, as they say.
Okay, I have chatted up my dreams. I'm sure
Thank
we'll
you for that.
revisit this some other time, and we should get to do a reading for King A since they've joined us.
King A, if you're still with us, would you indicate to us if you have a specific question and what that is, or if you would like a general reading at this time?
Okay. So, do you have anything specific in mind? I'm just going to be shuffling my Lenormand because I know I'll be pulling a couple. Empathic. Well, all right. I'm just going to take a look at my 3-card spreads to see if I can hone in on that a little bit.
There is a big spectrum of empathy, and sometimes people may display a lot of that or not so much of it, and so they may not actually understand themselves to be empathic. Some people relate strongly to animals, especially when they feel animals are needy, are in pain, are need our attention. But conversely, they may have little empathy for humans and human situations. I'm not saying this is about you or anybody else there, but I'm just saying that sometimes people don't understand the qualities or the limitations of their own empathy.
Well, and also, I just want to throw out there before we do the reading, because I have an idea too of what we can do, that, a lot of us, even in the, world of spirit here and who practice psychic practices, often tend to say we're empathic. Before we even say we're psychic, well, I'm empathic and I'm relating to people. They're related for sure, but you don't have to totally be an empath to be a psychic, I would say. However, it certainly helps. And also, what I'm also trying to say is that don't downplay potential psychic abilities that also you might feel you have by just saying it's just your empathic nature. Maybe, in fact, you have a little bit more intuitive abilities than you're giving yourself credit for. So, with that in mind, what I think I want to do is a 3-card spread, and it's going to show, we'll talk about your level of empathy at present and what you might need to become more empathic or how to manage your empathy. And the 3rd card will be how can I... Oh, I had it in mind. I just lost it. I've been watching you going through your cards there. Do you have anything that you wanted to do for a spread?
I just want to muse about that in my mind and then pull the cards that would tell me that. I just sort of want to go free form.
Freeform? Okay. I think we'll go freeform then, and I will focus myself on my Lenormand a little bit more on how you can...
I may end up pulling more than one card here and or
reinforce any empathic abilities you have.
the 3 of Cups. The 3 of Cups. And it's a reverse card. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that maybe you're not so empathic. Maybe there isn't... this one's a little hard to read in a way.
Shall I?
Go ahead.
Because I'm going to disagree immediately. But what I am going to say is that perhaps you might find yourself having a tendency to become overly involved in people's lives or dramas. I don't know if that's a matter of empathy per se. It might be part of your empathic nature that you feel compelled to become involved maybe to an extreme. And that can be detrimental to an empathic person. Sometimes we need to know where to draw those boundaries between ourselves and what other people are feeling.
Well, the thing about that too is that to some degree, some empaths may really struggle with their empathy to the point where maybe they overly shield, or they figured out how to create a shield or a block to not let things in because some of that disturbs or bothers them, or that they don't feel they're totally in control when they do that. And I'm wondering if maybe that's what I'm getting there too, is that there's just this ability to want to not let all that in there, or to have a way of metering it in there.
Shielding it. And I think that that there's a truth to what you say. I guess I went the route I went because when I see the Three of Cups reversed, it seems like there's something overindulgent or overwhelming going on, and that's what led me to the path that I took with my interpretation.
Well, I'm going to draw a second
Yeah.
card just to see what that tells me. Now that I have a somewhat nuanced idea there, which I thank you for. And this card doesn't necessarily help. It's Justice reversed. I'm going to let you go first this time.
Wow. So I'm looking at Justice Reversed, and I'm wondering if, you kind of spend a lot of your energy or have been thinking about people who are disadvantaged in some way or have had unfair treatment, whether it's in their personal relationships, whether it's in society. It seems like there's kind of an underdog perspective. I'm just thinking in terms of the way the card fell in relation to your question, that maybe a lot of your empathy or sympathies revolve around rallying for the underdog in some way. Maybe people are being bullied or trampled upon.
Well, I'm wondering too that if you're involved in a situation where maybe it's not so much that there's legalisms going on, but there are situations where decisions have to be made that affect other people, that it's hard to be empathic because you don't want to necessarily be accused of being partial to somebody because you feel sorry for them, or you feel like you need to help them or be more compassionate towards them too. And so this may relate to the idea of how do you affect objectivity and dispassionateness in rendering decisions or judgments.
You just led me on a path there, though. This card could also be indicating that, this is a constructive way to use empathy, is to, and if you're wondering if you are empathic or not, think about some of the things that you see in the headlines or in the news. I know the news can be a real downer sometimes, but I guess that's a point too. And also when you read and you read like stories of people's lives, like biographies, memoirs, do you empathize with the person? Do you feel what they're feeling as you read it? Do you feel their sorrows, their pains, their struggles? How involved do you get in the story? That's a kind of a sign of empathy.
Do you not like to have to make certain decisions that might affect other folks because you don't want to be judged on that you don't want to make a decision that might hurt somebody, or you don't want to make a decision that might give somebody an undue advantage? Those are things that maybe are secret ways of realizing that you are actually empathic. And we looks like we have somebody new in
Yes,
here
hello,
too.
Tom. Thank you for joining us. We're reading for King A right now, who had a question for us, and you can stay tuned. We have some time left. We might be able to get in a quick question for you if you're interested. But right now, we're doing some free form readings, but this is the last one on our list. So feel free to hang on for a few minutes, and we'll try to get to you.
So King A, you indicated that probably it's not a part of your life or situation that you might have to make decisions about people that you feel drawn to not weigh in one way or the other on your feel. But it is also possible too, maybe, that when decisions are made that affect you, not necessarily that you're making them, but maybe you could be making those decisions too, that you also have that feeling about whether or not you really feel involved in the situation, that you thinking it through from the part that is about what you really feel about it, your heart feels about it. I don't know if that's making sense.
Well, I would just say to you, test yourself in the ways that I have just spoken of, or evaluate yourself. How involved do you get, number one, in people's lives? I mean, do you really feel what they're feeling? Remember the old proverbs about walking in people's shoes. How much are you capable of doing that? How much do you feel you're capable of doing that? With your stories. Now, I'm not saying you have to, let's say, cry during the end of the Wizard of Oz movie, like some people here.
Now you're getting personal.
There's no place like home. There's no place like home to be an empathic person.
I can't watch that movie anymore.
But you kind of know how do things drive you? What do you feel about things? I have to guard myself all the time because I'm a very open, empathic person, and I pick up vibes from people all the time, and it can be a burden, but it can also be a huge blessing. I have found over the
So,
years.
noting that you earlier said that you have not really felt yourself to be empathic, but that maybe a person suggested that to you, I'm actually wondering if it's also possible, too, that that person is just sort of projecting onto you and that they're looking for you to acknowledge their empathic nature, too.
Well,
And
these
that,
things can be developed. They
yeah,
can
and
be.
right, it's not like this is a vacuum that you couldn't become empathic. Or like I suggested earlier, that maybe there's just a certain level of natural shields that you do that. And we do that to protect ourselves from feeling pain. I think there are some things that I know that I shield myself from that I don't want to think about or dwell on too much because I know they're gonna make me feel sad or make me feel angry or something like that. So it's an interesting question, and I guess it's just something that we're going to have to continue to dialogue about, perhaps.
Well, I drew these two Lenormand
Yes.
cards, and one is the bear, and one is the scythe, or the what do you call it? You had
The
enough.
Sith, the
Yeah.
Scythe, the Sith.
Yes. Basically, I don't know. That's interesting. Together, there is maybe I would feel that you have to let go of some of your own ego or self-importance, to develop more empathic skills. You have to cut back on some of what, some of the self. You have to think more on the other persons and individuals in your life if you want to develop that empathy. I think
Right.
that's what I'm getting from those two cards.
I believe that in terms of developing intuitiveness, that there you have to be able to play into a part of yourself that's objective to take things without saying, no, that can't be true. You have to be a little bit more objective about that. I think it's similar, but not exactly the same with empathy, that to some degree, empathy is actually about challenging the objectivity and saying, maybe I can go a little deeper to find something else going on there that is true in the heart.
So, Tom, are you still with us, and are you interested in a brief reading of any sort? We're
And
doing
you
tarot.
say you're a townie, so that means that you're probably in or around the Detroit area. And if that's true, I'm glad you did find us because you say you found our videos. So just for you to know, and for anyone else, we're longtime tarot readers in the Metro Detroit area. We've been reading probably for an astonishing combined over 80 some years.
Yes, I feel like I should be in the old folks' home when he says that.
Yes. We're
LOL.
part of the Union of Retired Tarot Readers.
No, we are not.
So, if you have a question, Tom, you're very welcome. We love you
We
too.
love you too.
And
we're always
please come back.
And I will say we are always here unless we announce otherwise, on Sundays 2 to 4 Eastern Standard Time and Thursday evenings 7 to 9 Eastern Standard Time. Last Thursday we had a major glitch and started like 15-20 minutes late because of that. Unfortunately.
You're
And
welcome.
This week, for some reason, our notifications did not go out. So we will hopefully get to the bottom of that. But I think everything else has been going pretty well with this live stream, actually.
Yeah, other than the fact that notifications didn't seem to work for everybody. But just a slight reminder too that you can get our tarot for the day for tomorrow reading, which is a forecast of the day ahead, on Facebook, and that's also rebroadcast on Twitter.
Yes.
We really like doing what we do, and we have a few more minutes, so we want to address Tom if he's still there. we can give a small reading there.
And if not, Tom, do check us out on our Facebook and Twitter pages. And feel free to write to us if you have any questions. The Tarot for Today email address is tarotfortoday@gmail.com.
You can leave messages for us, questions for us also at our Facebook inbox, and that's the Facebook page, TFT, Tarot for Today. You can go to our Gmail. If you're on Twitter, you can go there, and we will be happy to give advice, answer questions, share the things we do. We've been trying to put a little more content that we can share on our Facebook page, so we've become friends with a number of the tarot card producers. And we hope that they will give us permission to use some of their tarot decks or to acknowledge them. We're here to provide information and entertainment about tarot cards, tarot reading, divination in general.
Information, intuition, and of course,
And we have cats.
entertainment. And we have cats. Always have the cat. I don't know what it is about this one. He will not give up the spotlight to his sisters.
Yes, his sister siblings are not always here with us. We don't know what's going on with that.
So today we discussed dreams, and I'm going to try to keep the focus on some inward journeying and things during this season of Halloween, and maybe some talking about connecting with spirits and our ancestors and things of that nature, and give you some tips and advice in that area. So we talked about dreams today. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with Thursday. I'm thinking on it now, but I know pretty soon I'm going to want to be getting into past lives a little bit. I have some really fun decks that I would love to try, with everybody online. See if we can get a bead on somebody's past life.
Well, there's so many things about Halloween that are fun to do for us because probably the Halloween season is the one time where the general public is interested in things like fortune telling.
Right.
Besides those of us who are here now who probably patronize the services of readers year round, as we ourselves do. We talk to other people who do readings for us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as a matter of fact, I have a dilemma for an upcoming live stream. We may have to have it late one day because there's a big psychic festival coming to one of the cities in the area, and I myself want to get readings occasionally from another reader, and also look at some of the great offerings that they have. There's going to be body workers there. I remember at one of the last ones, I got to spend 15 minutes on a biomat. If you have not heard of a biomat, they're very expensive, but they are really awesome to lay on. They kind of are a mat that has heat and, what do you call it? I'm trying to think of the word, massaging qualities to it. And also the mat that I laid on was infused with amethyst crystals as well. So it was a very awesome experience. I woke up really pain-free after that and spent a glorious rest of the day at that psychic festival. And I know these people are coming back to it, so I kind of want to go. So
Banshee, we have mere moments to go, so I think it's fair to remind everybody, if we haven't already, that next Sunday our broadcast will also be later. I have a prior engagement. It's called work. I work occasionally on Sundays, an actual employment situation. So rather than 2 to 4 p.m., our broadcast will be from 7 to 9 p.m. next Sunday night.
Okay,
That's
glad you told me.
October 6th. So we do hope we'll see you there.
Oh,
Go ahead.
Before we go, there's something very important about that date.
What is that?
That is the day after the anniversary of our first date.
Yes, so we will also have a little bit of special content next Sunday night too. I'm going to replicate the parameters or the situation or the scene of our first date. It's bound to be a holy stitch, a real whoa, dang So join us next Sunday as well as Thursday. Both nights will be there 7 p.m. We think we're going to have a lot of fun going
Oh,
over our date.
some memories and some silliness. Actually, the psychic fair that is coming up is going to be in Southfield, Michigan.
Yes, it will be cute, and there will be many laughs with our audience. We do hope to see that.
Yes.
So we thank you once again for being here, and come join us again next Thursday night at 7 or next Sunday night at 7. Goodbye until then.
Take care. Bye bye.